We're live. She's not playing with the number 2 anymore. Hi everyone. Let us know if you can hear and see us, please.
Just waiting for everybody to join us. And then I guess I'm going to have to move Nugget. She's not going to be impressed.
You don't really need to move her till you have to iron.
She did need to make a cameo appearance, right?
She's been playing with the number 2. We have a hello from Frankfurt.
Awesome. Okay. Hi. Welcome to week 4, which will be our block 4 is a Mosaic Star. Thanks for joining us today at the just the end of our March break. I have spent 4 days with all the kiddos, the grandkids, so I'm ready to get back sewing. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already to our YouTube channel. So we are going to make a mosaic, what we have called a Mosaic Star. What I wanted to just quickly point out is because somebody thought that this week's blocks may be a Lemoyne Star again. Yes, they have 8 points. This is the Lemoyne Star from last week, and this is the Mosaic Star that we're going to be doing this week. But they're a little bit different. This one could be made either with all half square triangles. We're going to be making a flying goose here. Whereas this one is made with diamond points. All of the sides of the diamond are the equal length. On this one though, the diagonal line on our half square triangles is longer than our sides. So this way we have less background. It goes up a bit more. This one stays down. This one is equally broken up into 4 wide by 4 long. So things will fit much nicer. Or not much nicer, but just differently.
They fit with other 4x4 blocks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So that's the main difference. If you didn't have a Lemoyne Star ruler and you maybe, you could make this with just the 2 colors and you could fit it into the quilt, that would be just fine. Also, the sampler quilt that we had, not last year, but the year before, 2022, it had I think 12 different sampler blocks. They were all 12.5-inch finished. Any of those would fit into this quilt if you wanted to substitute something, or instead of making multiples, you could just have 1 block of each in your quilt. Just remember the placements of the backgrounds. So you can see this background is very light, this background is very dark, and that fits into the Bargello nicely. So if you are substituting another block into your quilt, again, just make sure that the backgrounds to put where they are, whether they're light or dark.
Block you're replacing.
Yes, thank you, Tiffany. Okay, so let's get started. So this block is consisting of half square triangles in the corners and a pinwheel half square triangles in the center. And then we have what we call non-mirror image flying geese. They could be made by another set of half square triangles, but then there would be a seam down the center. So we wanted to just reduce that, and we wanted to learn something new, so we're doing the flying goose. First off, let's start with the half square triangles.
Nugget is learning a lot.
Yes. So we have our blocks set up. So the 2 and the 4s are going to go together, and the 6s and the 7s are going to go together for our half square triangles. So for 1 block, I need 2 number 2s, and I need 2 number 4s, Here's another neat point. When I am doing multiple shapes in a block and I'm doing my cutting, I do cut them the way that I would need to be. So I have my half square triangles on one of my design boards. I have my flying geese on one of the design boards. So I can take this to my sewing machine from my cutting board and just sew all half square triangles and flying geese, keeping me a little bit more organized. A little easier for my brain.
What are you grabbing now?
Okay, so I'm taking also 2 6s and 2 7s because those are going to be the outside corners, and I'm going to do them all at one time by chain piecing. Okay, so let's move this to the side. I'm going to take on the back of my lights and I am going to draw my line from corner to corner. You can either use the magic wand and draw on both sides, or I have my 1/4 inch foot in my sewing machine, so I am just going to draw a line from corner to corner, corner to corner.
You could draw a little darker.
Just so we can see it.
Yeah.
I would not normally draw that dark, but so those are going to be paired with those. And now I'm also going to take my black, but I brought my white chalk because we're definitely not going to be able to see a black friction marker on top of black fabric. Again, this is a great place to use friction markers because it's on the back. It'll also be in our seam. It's not going to show. I don't like using them on the top, on the good side of our fabric, because I want to make sure that they're going to not stain our fabric. But I like them a lot when I'm doing them on the back. Again, I drew a little bit harder than I normally would, just so you get to see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these right side together. I'm going to get them all ready, and we're just going to chain piece them one after the other. Need my foot pedal too. Oh, there it is. Alrighty. Now I have a little piece of scrap here. Let me just get rid of some of this. I love starting when I'm chain piecing. I love starting on a leader of some kind, just to make sure that it's passed. And I love sewing with my needle in the down position. That way, when I grab my blocks, place them right sides together, I can butt this up to the needle so it's engaged with my feed dogs as much as I can, so it won't, hopefully it'll grab a little bit easier. I have this diagonal seam tape on here. I don't know if you can see it. It's just helping me guide my corner. I can guide the corner on the black 1/4 inch on the right hand side, making sure that I have a great seam. So now I've sewn just past that block. I am going to grab my next one. I'm leaving it in there. I'm going to butt this up and sew my next block. I'm going to grab my next ones and just continue on it. If I was at...
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a hello from Florida and a hello from Ottawa.
Ooh, hi guys. Thanks for joining us. I was just in Ottawa on Saturday. We went to the Museum of Nature with the 5 grandkids. We had a blast. Of course, the boys say the bugs were the best part. So now that I'm at this end, I can just flip it around and I can sew back on this side. Some people just like to continue on sewing. I like to clip them. I just find I have a little bit more control. But whichever one that you like. but I love how it takes care of my threads at the end. I don't end up getting rat's nests. I'm really not wasting thread as much because it's only just a little piece in between, not those long tails that we throw out. Tiffany, did you download the instructions?
I did. You should go
Okay,
on Facebook.
perfect. So the instructions are on the Facebook page, and I did not mark on the instructions which way your seams are to be pressed. So give yourself a minute, make a note of that. I will be talking about which way our seams are being pressed as we go. So you can just pencil that in on your paper. Actually, instead of cutting my thread, I should have just sewn onto my leader. Alrighty. Tiff, I don't have a rotary cutter here.
I do.
Do you have a? Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I am just going to cut now on the diagonal and cut my pieces apart. So I have the 2. 4. So I've got 4 of the black one, and I have 4 of our center one. Okay, Nuggy, I need my mat.
Oh no.
Alrighty. Yes, I need to press. So,
Bye, Nugs.
so on the we've always talked about making half square triangles, and normally we press to the dark. This time for our corner unit, we're going to change it up a little bit just to reduce some of the bulk. So we are going to press towards fabric number 6, which is the 7 is the darkest. This is the 6, so I'm going to press towards the 6. So I'm going to have those on the top. 1, and I can
Careful
just
not to stretch your
lay these one on top of the other. Opening it with my finger. Remember, that's a bias. We're going to try not to stretch it. So there are my first 4. Then the second 4, I'm just going to press towards the darker, which would be our fabric number 4. Again, set my seam, open it with my fingers.
And you're putting the iron in the way.
I'm putting my iron right in the front, aren't I? Opening it with my fingers. I'm just laying the one on top of it. That way my bottom one gets lots of pressing, and I just stagger it a little bit so I don't have the seam on top of the other seams. And one more. There we go. Now let's trim these up. I'm going to go back to the table here. So again, we are going to trim them up. We can either use our Bloc Loc ruler, or we can use a regular Creative Grids ruler. I'm going to use this, it's a little easier to see. And it's the spinny mat, and I absolutely love my spinny mat. Okay, so we're just going to double check my paper. We're squaring these up to 3.5. Because I would hate to do it wrong on camera. Yes, I'm squaring it up to 3.5. So I'm going to line up my squares like this off my board, because I'm going to show you something. Again, with my brain, I like to be a little organized. So if we were going to use the Creative Grids ruler, here we go. We're going to grab the block. We want to square it up to 3.5.
Hold on one sec. I just gotta, there we go.
Okay, I don't really have to worry about a center on it. I just want to make sure that there's a little bit of fabric outside the 3.5 inch mark all the way along, and the diagonal on our ruler is on our seam. So we're going to cut 1, we're going to cut 2, we're going to turn it so the cut side that we just had is now on our bottom left. Again, lining the diagonal up, but this time my 3.5 inch line is on the edge of my block, and I have a teeny tiny little bit of fabric on the top and on the bottom. I'm just going to put this one to the right. So that's how you use the creative grid, but of course I absolutely love the block lock ruler. So this is the one that I am going to use for the rest of my blocks. It has this groove that grabs onto that seam. So you can see that it really grabs onto the seam and helps keep us in control. Again though, I'm locking it onto the seam, and I will have the 3.5 inch line on the edge of my fabric, making sure there's a little bit all the way around.
And making sure that your the ruler's in the correct direction.
Oh yes, absolutely. So if I locked it onto my seam, and my seam, it's hard to see with the two blacks, but my seam here doesn't line up at the corner, that gives me a clue that my ruler's upside down or the wrong way around. So I'm just going to flip it around. I want that seam lined up with the corner of my ruler. So I've got my 3.5 somewhere on my fabric, a little bit to trim around all the way around. Cut 1 side, cut 2 side. This time I am not going to pick up my ruler and rotate my block. I'm going to rotate everything all the way around, my block and my ruler. I am going to slide my ruler down my seam and line up my 3.5 inch line on the edge of my block. I'm pushing now that the seam's on that side. I'm just pushing a little bit up, making sure that it's locked right onto my seam. And I can square up this side and this side. Now that one will go here. I will pick up this, because now my seam is going in the right direction. So 3.5, 3.5.
It's going in the right direction with
for the ruler,
with how your ruler was already
oriented. Absolutely.
And if you don't have a spinning mat, can you show what the block lock ruler can do?
Sure. On the other mat? Okay, I will. So if you didn't have a spinning mat, so I'm going to put this one here. Now I'm going to pick up this one and trim again. So again, lining up my 3.5 inch line on my fabric, lock my seam on, cut my side. If I didn't have a spinning mat, all I would do is grab the corner of my ruler, spin it around, slide it down the seam. Kind of fun.
Because of that groove, it grips your block, and so you can
spin it right around.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing to watch out for, I grabbed a really old ruler. It is actually a little short on the edge now. I think we're going to have to retire this one or use the larger rotary cutter. So when you're using this block, because it's thin because of the groove that they put in it, the plastic is a little bit thinner there, so you can trim the edge of your ruler off over time. Thank you, Tiff. So what I want to remember to do, instead of cutting out here and going in, hitting the edge of my corner and shaving off the edge over time, what I want to do is I want to line my cutter up on the ruler, and sorry. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to line my cutter up on my ruler, and I'm just going to roll it backwards, nice and straight. That way we're going to protect the edge of our ruler. I do that with every square that I have, that I'm squaring anything up, and I'll show you again on the other side. Rotate around, slide down, Lining up my 3.5, pulling it this way this time, making sure that it's butted up nice to our line. Cut this one up. I want to put this on the edge of my ruler and roll it back. That way I am not going to be trimming that edge of that ruler off as we go. Goes on my right. I've seen myself trimming up over 100 half square triangles. Again, in this 4-pile method, it just keeps everything a little organized. I put a movie on our television in the sewing room, and off we go. Works really well. 3.5, fabric on top, trim, roll back, cut up, rotate, slide down. Take a second to line up the 3.5. Side up. Again, just to remind us, don't put our cutter at an angle because you'll be pushing into your ruler, cutting behind. Always want it to be exactly perpendicular, straight up and down to your ruler. So cut that side, roll back, cut the top. One last one. One, cut the top, rotate it around, 3.5. Perfect. So what I'm going to do right now, before I go on to the half square triangles, is I'm just going to sew these 4 into our pinwheel. If I look at my pattern, I want to make sure that it starts out that way so it will line up properly with our points that we have, hopefully. So I'm going to start with my first block like that. When I'm doing a pinwheel, if you place this block on top of it and then rotate it just one turn clockwise. Oh, would that help better?
Well, just the lines of the matter.
Okay. Put it in the same, rotate it 1/4 turn, 1/4 turn, and then we'll have our pinwheel going in the right direction. So we're going to sew it together there, and then we're going to sew into a square. Oh, I have to go over a little bit more, Tiff. Thank you. Nope, you stole my pillow, my foot.
Oh, I'm stuck.
Okay, okay, 1 minute, please. Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
You can sure tell we don't have one of those really fancy video places and the overhead cameras and all that kind of stuff, but we make do. Alrighty, so I'm just going to take my first row and I'm going to close the one on the right over one on the left. Our seams, because they're pressed in opposite angles, opposite directions, will butt nicely there. We'll put a little pin to hold that corner for me, and off we go. Now I had my purple thing for marking, and oh, there it is. I'd like to hold this. My seam is going up, so I want to make sure that it stays in the proper direction and doesn't get bent over. If you've had any problems with spinning seams, that's one of the reasons why we end up with issues, is because our seams are bent in the wrong direction. We always want to make sure that they're properly aligned. And then our next one. I'm having problems with words today. I'm just gonna.
We had a question. Is the Bloc Loc ruler available in the store?
Yes, we finally got our new order in. We ordered a whole bunch of them. I ordered them from Colorado, straight from Bloc Loc. I think it's Colorado. So yeah, so they just came in very recently, and we have what came in 6.5s, which are
2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 6.5, and the set of 2, 4, and 6.
So this,
and 9.5.
So this is the 6.5. So, I mean, if you can only have one, this is the one I would get. I love the smaller ones for using, just then you don't have to think so much, right? I'm just going to press these seams now. So I am going to press these. I want them to go in the same direction as the seams that are on there. So I'm going to press towards the light because I'm going to be spinning the seams in the center. So I'm pressing towards the light. That means I have my light on the top. I set my seam. I open it up and we're good to go. Yes, I have that correct.
Trying to make sure I don't steal your foot pedal this time.
Okay, so I'm just going to nest these seams because we press them in opposite directions again. I want to make sure that they nest really nice. I can peek a little bit, make sure that they're butted up really nicely. I'll grab that center seam. I'll grab this corner seam, or a corner, and this corner. Let's sew it together.
Hey, get in front of your machine properly.
I am. I'm good.
You thought you were good the first time.
I was not in front of the machine the first time. That was really funny. I'm just going to lift my foot. I want to make sure that those seams don't get bumped in the wrong direction by catching on my foot. Now I am going to measure this. I think my seam is a little skimpy. Before I cut, I'm going to double check this because this unit should measure 6.5. So before I spin my seam, I'm just going to give it a little finger press and I am going to double check my measurement here, just in case I have to re-sew that seam. Six and a half. You know what? I'm good. I'm right on. Okay, so now you can see how much of a bulk was in there when I put my ruler on it. That's why we want to spin that seam. Okay. Here? Okay. So this is the seam that I just sewed. The previous seams are intersected with that. So what I want to do is I want to take that previous seam and I want to unpick it all the way down to the horizontal seam. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to, again, the vertical seam, I am going to unpick all the way down. Trying to do this on camera. Normally I would have it up by my nose so I could see without my glasses on. So I wanted to leave the end on there. I want to make sure that it's being held in place by the horizontal seam. If I cut that off, it could have a chance that it would undo. So now that I have them unpicked, if I go to my mat, I'm going to flip it over. These seams go in this direction. These ones go in that direction. And I will have another teeny tiny little cute pinwheel right there. Again, if I would have pressed this seam towards the blue like I thought I would have wanted, it would have been opposite to what these are, so it wouldn't spin properly. Okay, so now that I have it finger pressed, I am just going to grab my iron here. Oh, and I am going to give that one last press. And we have a beautiful flat center. Okay, on to flying geese. Have we made flying geese this month? this year? No, this is it. Okay, so if you joined us last year, even the year before, we love the Studio 180, the flying geese. We make 4 flying geese at a time, and they were a little bit oversized. Thank you. And let's just put these over there with that block so I don't lose them. So I'm going to make 4 flying geese at a time, a little bit oversized, and then I'm going to square them up with the wing clipper ruler. If you don't have the wing clipper ruler, we're going to try to square them up with a square, a little bit harder, but I will show you how to do it if you don't have it. You can still use my cutting measurements. The original measurements to the wing clipper ruler have been adjusted. I love them so much. They used to have to nudge them in about 1/8 of an inch, and that about drove me crazy because I didn't want to be too far. Sometimes I was not far enough, then I didn't have enough to trim up. Now with these new measurements that Deb Tucker has come out with, we line them up with the edge of our big block the same as we always have. So it makes it so wonderful. There's no fudge room, no little bit. So that's the method, that's the measurements that you have right now. So what we are doing, if we were doing a flying goose block, I should have had a little more demo here. I'm really sorry I don't have it. This is a flying goose block, and normally your wings are the same color. If I did them with large squares and just sew them together the way the pattern does, I could make 2 colored flying geese, but they would be mirror image. So one set, out of the 4 of the flying goose set, 2 would have the light on the right and the dark on the left, and the other 2 would have the light on the left and the dark on the right. This time for our block, we want to make sure that our light is always on the left side of our flying goose. So we have to treat it a little bit differently. Again, Deb, the wonder that she is, has come up with one of her technique sheets. It's called Geese of a Feather. So if you like this technique, pick up her technique sheet, and it will give you all the sizing and all the instructions step by step on how to do the blocks. So for today, for our block, I have told you already what to cut, and we're going to continue on. So I need 1 full set per block. So I am going to need 2 number 8s. I am going to need 2 number 2s and 1 of the 7, and there's 7 3/4 inch blocks. So we're going to do a little bit of drawing. First off, I have my magic wand, and I am going to draw a center line on my flying goose in both directions.
I'd like to state that for this, you do not want to use an iron off
Marker.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that these
because
lines
I've done that
stay
before.
there. We have, haven't we?
And then regretted it.
Okay. That just pulled my corner. Let me just get that up to the corner. Okay? So, that's our first block. On our little blocks, what we're going to do is we are going to draw. I lost my friction marker.
It's right here.
Thank you.
But you're not going to want the iron off. And are you going to?
Yeah, on these are fine.
You're going to cut.
We're cutting.
You're not drawing. You're cutting.
We're drawing first.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So I like the magic wand. I want to draw my sewing line. I want to draw a 1/4 inch on this side of the center and a 1/4 inch on this side of the center.
Mom, you're going to iron that off.
Yep, it'll be fine. Watch, I'll show you.
Okay.
So I'm going to do this with all our blocks. That. And then I'm also going to draw it on here. Now I'm thinking the white might be a little bit easier to see on this block. Whoops. Yep. I didn't have to do that, but I had picked it up, so. Again, remember when you're using the magic wand, you want to draw as close as you can to the actual wand, not holding your pen up, because then you would get a gap. And I want to draw on the wrong side. Right side of the large, the 7 3/4 inch square, we're going to draw on the right side of that.
The pretty side.
On the pretty side. But on our little squares, we're going to draw on the wrong side. So now that I have my lines drawn, I'm going to take 2 of them and put them aside for later. And I'm going to take these ones and cut them apart. I don't want to use my magic wand. That's going to give me way too much finger that I can cut. Way too much. So I'm just going to grab my wing clipper ruler and I'm going to cut these apart on the diagonal in between the 2 lines. So we have our drawn lines on there just in case they shift on our big block. We will be good to go. Okay, so now I'm going to take my big block, and what we're going to do, remember normally we would line up, we would sew on both sides, we would have one on either side. This time, because we want our flying geese all to have different measurements or different colors on the squares, this is what we're going to do. So we are going to line it up with this diagonal line right on the edge. So we're going to put our fabric number 8 on the left hand side. We're going to put our fabric number 1 on the right hand side, lining them up with our diagonal. On this end here, again, if we shift this around, we will have it opposite to this. It will be, again, fabric 8 is on our left hand side. Fabric 2 is on the right side. Here's one thing. Now I want to go and I want to sew this to the sewing machine. I can do lots of pins. That would be fine. But this is one of the times that I absolutely love. You can see how well worn it is. It's the Acorn Seam Align Glue. I call it our magic pins in a bottle. It's very clear liquid, and what it ends up doing is it will glue the pieces together, but we can totally peel them apart. The glue is absolutely gone. There is no residual. It will not gum up our needle. It is absolutely wonderful. So because I'm going to iron, I am going to start on one side at a time. And I am just going to take and put a couple drops here. I haven't used it for a while, so I might need to grab a pin, Tiffany, so I can open this up. Thank you. There we go. And I can put as many or few as I like. I'm going to line this up. I'm aligning it with the edge of our dark. And I am going to press. And you are correct, Tiffany. I should not have used the friction marker.
I told you.
You did. But I have my 1/4 inch on there, so I think we'll be good. I'm going to get you to, we just might do the other ones off. So the glue does hold without the iron, but not quite as well. So we're just not going to iron that one. Again, so I could either put the glue there or I can glue it on my piece. And they will be overlapping in the center. That's what I want them to do. One. Don't you hate it when your daughter's right? Man. I was thinking, no, we cut them, so it will be fine. And it will be, but I'm just gonna hit this. Yeah, I know it'll line up. But we'll be good. We will be good. I'm gonna close this up so it doesn't dry. And off we go. So now I don't have to worry about pins, but it's holding that bias. I'm not going to stretch it. So everything will be wonderful. Okay, I don't have my leader on here. So because I drew exactly a 1/4 inch away from the center, I still have my 1/4 inch foot on here, so I can guide it by there, but I can also guide it by that line that we drew. So it should line up exactly perfectly with this one down here. Now remember, we have a little bit of trim up space, so I'm not really worried too much. Flip it around and we're going to go down the other side. And also, because we have that trim up space, if my 1/4 inch isn't exactly perfect, it's going to look perfect at the end of the day. Alrighty. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to cut this apart on that diagonal. And now we're going to go press. And we're going to press them towards the little triangles. We're going to make what some people call foxes. Some people call them hearts. So one looks like that. The other one looks like this.
They both look exactly the same because they're non-mirror image.
Exactly. Okay. So you should have 2 identical units. Alrighty, so let's go grab our other 2 squares. No, they're here too. Oh, they're back here. Sorry. We drew our lines. Now we're just going to cut them on the diagonal. One of the things that I don't like doing is when I have to cut squares into diagonals, I like to do it at the very last minute. That way I'm sure that I'm not going to be stretching that bias edge any, keeping it as straight as possible. There we go. Okay, so which one goes where? All right. When you look at it like this, what we want to do is make sure that our flying goose has both colors on the... Do I have these correct?
If you're planning on folding that over, yes.
Yes, okay, I do. So you can see that I want them to be opposite colors. So my white will go on the blue side, or my fabric 2 will go on the fabric 8 side. And I always question the direction of the spin of these. And then I need a blue one, and it will go, or our fabric 8, it will go right there, because when that flips over, there is our flying goose. And we'll know if they spin wrong if I put them with my pinwheel and they're going in the wrong direction.
No, they're going in the right direction.
Again, lining it up on the edge, which with this no nudge method is so much nicer. I can just pop that over to the side, and I might as well do this one while I am here. So blue side, or my fabric 8 side gets my fabric 2 triangle. I really do love this glue. I also like it for especially beginners that are having a really hard time pinning borders, and they zig and zag on them and they don't line up properly. when they use this glue, they can have such a nice straight border. It helps quite a bit. I don't have a ton.
And also then the pins are not bending your fabric, which is...
There's no distortion, exactly, yeah. I might not have as many products in my store as other people, but the ones that I have in there, I really truly do believe in. Alrighty, so let's back over to the sewing machine. Pop this in. Thread, and off I go. Again, I'm going to chain piece them. I'm going to go one after the other. One. Two. I can cut this apart here. Now I want to go on this other side. Three and four. And once I'm sure of my block, and if I have to make multiples, I would just continue making all my flying geese at one time, all my half square triangles at one time, while my brain is on that function. I have less likely chance of making boo-boos. Okay, so there we have our blocks. Tiff's just taking a couple pictures here because it's really important on which way the alignments were. So what she's doing has been taking a couple pictures, and we will be posting them up to the Facebook page, just so we make sure that we have our colors all going in the right direction. So we want to have them all identical flying geese. And we're just going to go press these. I had a little bit of glue out there. All I had to do is give it a little tug and the glue came undone, so I can actually press it so it's nice and flat. That's the great thing. You'll notice that the glue, if it gets somewhere and then you peel it off after it's pressed, there's nothing there. There's no residual. You can't re-iron it. It's not going to stick again because it's totally gone. Because we do want to make sure that we can press right up to that seam allowance. So if our glue has gone beyond, we just want to make sure that it stretches out. There I am with my iron in front of the board again. Alrighty, here we go. So now we have 4 geese that are non-mirror image. They're all identical, and that's exactly what we want for this block. Let's square them up. So I am going to grab my flying goose ruler, and our wing clipper ruler, and I'm going to start with the point of my goose towards myself, to the belly. I am going to be squaring these up to 3.5 by 6.5.
And why is your ruler foggy, Cindy?
Why is my ruler foggy? That is because I have sprayed it with Grippy. It's an OTIF product, and it makes it just a little bit foggy, but you can hear the roughness to it, and I don't have the sliding that I normally have. Okay, so here's the measurements that we're going to use. We're going to be squaring it up to 3.5 by 6.5, and right on top of this 3.5 inch line, there is this intersection of our 2 diagonal lines, and that's going to be right on the point of our goose. Again, using black fabric, Cindy. But okay, so there is the 3.5. There's my point. I am going to line that up right on beak of my goose, and my 2 diagonal lines line up perfectly with my seams. I have lots of fabric all the way around to trim up. Some people might think that's a little wasteful. Me, not so much. I love that opportunity that I can have that I don't have to be absolutely perfect. So now that I flipped it around, I've got my perfect corner. I'm going to take the 6.5 and the 3.5 inch line them up on the edge of my unit, and there's a little X right there that I know now I am not going to lose any of the nose of my goose. It's going to ensure that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. Cut that one, and see, even with this ruler, I put my ruler up, I rotate my wrist so it just cuts backwards a little bit. A little thick there because of the seams. And there we go. Okay, one more time. Point to my tummy. My 3.5 just on top of the 3.5. Lining up my seams. I have fabric all the way around my 6.5. Again, I'm putting pressure here because I have a seam, so I don't want it to shift. Roll back, cut across. Upper right, bottom left, 6.5, 3.5. Again, if you're a lefty, Deb has those beautiful instructions for lefties. My X is on the top, so I ensure that 1/4 inch seam. After working all this time, I don't want to lose anybody's nose. And then we have another one. Okay, if you don't have the wing clipper ruler, this is what we're going to do. We have to figure out the difference. This is a 6.5 inch unit, so that point right there should be 3.25. So I want to find the 3.25 inch mark right there, and I'm going to put the little point. Again, that's why I like these creative kits. At my 3.25, you can see I call them little chicken feet. They're on the diagonal line. That point right there is where I want in the nose of my goose. So my 3.25 goes there. My diagonal seam will go up one of the seams. I have fabric all the way around. And we're going to cut 1, 2. Now I'm going to flip it around. That upper right goes into the bottom left. I'm going to find my 3.5 and my 6.5 inch line. My 3.5, my 6.5 inch line. I still have that little 1/4 inch, ensuring they're on that.
What? You're 6 3/4, Mom.
I'm 6 3/4. Thank you, Tiffany.
That's why it wasn't working.
That's why it wasn't working. There we go. Okay, 6.5, 3.5. My 3.25 inch line is pointing right at my nose, but I also have this dotted seam allowance line, and it's right at the top to ensure that I don't cut off the nose of any goose. So you can do it, but it's just a lot easier to use the wing clipper ruler. And because we have it, let's use it. Why struggle? Okay, this one is off a little bit. This might have been one of the ones that I stretched a little bit when I was pressing. So I'm just going to go back to my iron, and I'm going to see if I can straighten it out a little bit. If I had some starch here, I would give it another little starch. So I'm just pressing it out. I'm going to give it a little steam. Sometimes we get a little bit over exuberant when we're pressing, or we catch it with the edge of the iron. Most of the times we can straighten it back out. I'm going to check it while I'm over here, just in case I have to do a little bit more. Yeah, a little bit more. Again, if I had a little bit of starch with me, I could hit it with the starch and you can sort of squeeze it back into the direction that you want it to be. There we go. We're pretty close now. I could also, if that didn't work, I could also go back and just take a little bit extra seam here. My seam might have gone a little bit crooked, but I think we can get it. Let me just double check. There we go. One, roll back, 2, 6.5, 3.5. My X is on the top, and we're good to go. Okay, so now we have all our units, and we can put our block together.
You did all 4?
I guess yes, we did. We did. Okay, let me just get rid of some garbage here. Do a little cleaning up. Grab my board. Okay. So in the center goes our pinwheel, and then we are going to put our geese around the edge. So the fabric 2s line up, and our fabric, what is this? Fabric 4 and 8 will line up. 2, 3, 4. And then this time what we are going to make sure that we do is these are our fabric 8. No, sorry, these are our fabric 7. So I want to make sure that the fabric 7 is towards the inside. The fabric 7 will be surrounding our star. Okay. And now it's just a matter of sewing our blocks together, our rows, and then sewing our block. Off we go. I lost my foot pedal. Oh, there we go. Alrighty, here we go. This one butts nicely. Give it a little pin.
Any questions from anyone? Oh, we have a hello from Whitefish.
Hi. There's our first one. Here's our second. So what we want to make sure that we do is I'm going to just flip this around. I want to make sure that the point of my goose,
Bring it up here.
sure, and I'll grab a heavier pin. The point of my goose here lines up, not that pin. I couldn't even get it through the fabric. Okay, so the point of my goose, I want to make sure that it lines up exactly with my seam. If you can't eyeball that 1/4 inch, you can always just grab a ruler and some kind of marking device, and you can
That was. Oh, you do have a dotted line.
Yeah.
Ruler.
draw a little dot so you know where your 1/4 inch is. I've done this once or twice, so I can pretty much judge the 1/4 inch. Okay, so now what I want to make sure is my pin, the edges of my fabric will be lined up perfectly, and my pin is exactly perpendicular to my block. If it was at an angle like that, it is not lined up with that seam. So let's straighten out this pin. Now that it's nice and straight, I'm just going to take another pin and I'm going to pin our block in place. Lining up our edges. I love grabbing my seam on the bottom when I'm pinning at the bottom to make sure that it keeps it in the right direction. I'm going to take that big pin out and we're going to sew this together. Again, now we want to make sure that we're using our perfect 1/4 inch seam. This is the place where we have to try really hard. I don't want to square up our blocks. I don't know if we've talked about that yet, but we square up our units, but we don't square up our main block. If we start squaring up our finished blocks, we would end up losing points. We really don't want to do that since we struggled so hard to get perfect points. This is where that 1/4 inch seam that you've been practicing comes into effect. Alrighty, so there's one. Just gonna lie it back down. Clip, clip. Put my leader back in. Gee, I think that's the first time I forgot to put my foot down today. Again, these seams are butted in.
Can you do that again, saying what you're doing?
Okay.
And also your middle block is upside down.
Yeah. So I laid them down exactly the way they came out, ensuring that they're in the right direction. Put them back on my board. So now I'm going to take and sew these blocks to make our rows. So my right hand flips closed right sides together, butting these seams up. And the bottom corner here. I put my leader in my sewing machine. I have a lot of seam here. I could sew this way, but because I have a lot of seam, I can always flip this unit over. It will feed through my sewing machine just a little bit better. I should have pinned on this side then, but we'll get her. Okay. So again, the block on the right gets flipped over.
Say hello to Nugget.
Here's my little nose of my goose. I want to make sure that it's right in the nose of my goose, right on my seam at the 1/4 inch mark. Jiggling it so the edges are lined up. My pin is perfectly straight. Something I do, I don't know if everybody does it, but something I do is when I'm pinning, I'm always pinning on the left side. I want to make sure that it stays exactly where I want it to be.
Really?
Yeah.
You pin.
Because if I pin on this, if I pin on this side of my seams, when I hit it, it could shove it a little bit farther over when I'm sewing. So I like to pin it there. Some people do both. Some people pin on both sides. So I can take that one out. So now when I go, I'm going to make sure my foot doesn't catch on that seam. I am going to sew. So my seam that I'm sewing right now goes right into that intersection. Take that pin out at the last minute. And our last, again,
your pins
right.
in the bottles is about to get knocked on the floor.
Thank you, Nugget. Just nesting this seam in there. Again, I'm pinning on the seam that's to the left. I like to know where that one's going. I have another little leader here. I'm just going to fit that through and I'm going to trim these off. Alrighty. So I have not wrote this down. So pencil this in on your paper. What we want to do, let me see my paper. Excuse me, Nugs. So what I want to do is press my seams going towards the white. So if they're like this, they go this way. Both of these will go in that direction. So I'm going to put it with my white on the top. Press that one. Press that one. White on the top. It really wants to fold differently here because there's a lot of bulk. There's a lot of bulk on this block. We're going to talk about that in a second. Alrighty, so with this block, this is the point of our goose. So we have a lot of seam allowance here, less over here. So I want to press towards my pinwheel block.
Other way.
Towards my pinwheel block. Thank you. I'm going to flip it over again, so it's towards my pinwheel block. Okay.
So why aren't you pressing the top seams so that they will nest with these seams?
Okay. So here's the thing. Can I have a Bargello block, please?
Oh, you have one?
I do. Okay. We have a lot of bulk. This may be one of the places where we're going to think about pressing our seams open. And I just might do that. I'm still thinking about it. So when we sew this towards the, into the quilt, do I have a picture of the quilt there? One of the diagrams.
Just
Okay. I just want to make sure that this is the correct way. So if this block will go towards our Bargello block in this manner. The seams of our Bargello block are going down. That's why I need these seams to go up. When we flip it over to the other side, it will going in the opposite direction. So these ones will be going down. These ones will be flipping up. Because there is a lot of seams going on in there, I really want to make sure that that happens. So where are we? So these seams are going towards the dark. That's why I need my seams going in the opposite direction. Sorry, they're going away from the dark. Away from the dark? Away from the dark. Believe me, trust me. So here's the thing. Some people do not like seams going in the same direction because there will be a lot of bulk, and that will happen actually here. This one will be fine because it nests. These ones will be going in the same direction. So you're going to get a lot of bulk. If the bulk bothers you, then what we really want to do is press these seams open.
on the center one.
On just the center block. Just be aware then, if we press this seam open, we can no longer quilt in the ditch. When I'm looking at this block, I'm thinking if I'm going to quilt this custom quilt, I'm going to quilt something in here and treat that as a blade anyways. So I really don't care if this one's pressed open. I know I don't like pressing blocks open as much as I do, but sometimes we have to. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to press just that seam open. So it will reduce the bulk. There's a little bulk on the nose, but because we're pressing it open, overall it's going to reduce the block. I wish I had my other iron here now. I broke the nose off of this one, so it's hard to press open. Okay. So now that it's pressed open, it will fit much nicer with this seam. I still want these ones, because we pressed our Bargello blocks all going in a certain direction. I want these to nest in nicely, so I'm not pressing all of our seams open, just that one. So now I can nest this seam, but it only nests on the one. So this, because it has the point, because it's the corner of the half square triangle, it has a little bit of bulk on this one side, so I can really feel the bulk, that I can get that to nest really well. It's hard to see in here today. Yeah. I don't know if it's dark or if it just seems dim today. Yeah. Okay, so this one, because they're pressed in opposite directions, nests nicely. There's my goose nose. So I want to make sure that that lines up perfectly with my seam. And then this one, I have the bulk on the one side. I can peek, make sure that they're lined up really nicely, the best that I can, and off we go. And then these two over here again will nest. All right, let's see how good this works out.
Did I steal your?
Yeah, that's okay. Going over the seams at the beginning, so nice and slow. Sometimes if you have to, take a stiletto or something to help it along until your feed dogs grab.
Where's your purple thing?
It's here. It's right there.
Oh, we have a hello from East Tennessee.
Ooh, hi. How's the weather down there? It snowed here again. I can't believe it. I thought we were done with the snow. But I guess it's only March, so. Are you gardening already in Tennessee?
Yeah, they must be.
I think so, eh? Oh, it would be nice. Okay, let's take a peek. Let's take a peek. Don't look too close. My point is lined up pretty darn good. I don't have too much bulk. Life is good. Alrighty, one more side. This is the seam again that was pressed open, so I want to make sure that I have it going in the right direction. This one over here nests. Here's the center. Our goose nose, right on our 1/4 inch. Again, lining the edges of our blocks up so they're flush. Lining our pin so it's totally perpendicular. A little bit more bulk on this one, but I can peek and make sure that it's lined up nicely. This seam over here is going to nest. All is good. Just put a pin down here. my needle came unthreaded. Let me just rethread this. Here's a tip. When you're going to rethread your needle with a needle threader of any kind, make sure it's in the upper position and it will work a whole lot easier. And yes, this machine has a semi-automatic needle threader. It is so cool. Sure my seam didn't get bent on the edge of my sewing machine. A little bit of bulk here. I want to make sure that that's going to be distributed. Let's just cut that thread off. Do you know, I see those loose threads and stuff, and every time I go to cut one off, I think of my mom. She always said the back of your work should look as good as the front of your work. So when I see those threads and think, oh, I can just leave it there, it'll just be on the inside of the quilt, and there's Mom's little voice in the back of my head going, the back of your quilt should look as nice as the front of your quilt. So I cut it off. Alrighty. So we have our seams going on our sides this way, then this one should have been down, this one's going in this direction, which works, and this one should be going up, but again, we can't do that, we would get too much bulk. So these seams that are attached to our middle, I'm also going to press open. Just for this time, I can do it as much as I don't like pressing open. Thank you, Nugget. Still going to set my seam, and I'm going to press those open.
Your iron is very much in the way.
And it doesn't get warm if you don't put it on the stand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Alrighty. So pressing open on my fingers, or with my fingers. Because I have all those intersecting seams, it really doesn't want to. But we'll make it do what we want it to do. There we go. Just going to set this one as well. I like setting the seam. It just sort of takes that thread and sets it right into our fabric. Opening that up. Now that I have them opened up really nicely, I want to do my final pressing on this side. And I can even just give it a little shot of steam, making sure things lay nice and flat. And there we've got it. So now some of the seams will nest really nicely with our Bargello block. The other ones will be pressed open, so we will have less bulk. I think I brought a Mosaic Star block just so they can see the difference of the actual block now. Now this should measure 12.5. You'll have to trust me. I didn't bring my 12.5-inch ruler. Okay.
Oh, you didn't? Not at all.
I didn't, no. Okay, so there's the Lemoyne from last week. And here's our Mosaic Star from this week. You can see that it is basically the same shape, but it shows
get in front.
It shows a little bit more now, whereas this seam here is the same length as those seams. Whereas on this star, these seams are shorter, these seams are longer. Very similar, but just a little bit different. So Tiff, I'll get you to go and check and see if there's any other questions before we go. Again, if you didn't download your instructions, they will be up on Facebook now.
And we will also post a picture of the flying goose, the way the fabrics go.
Did you hear her? Yes. So we did take those pictures just to make sure that we have our colors going in the right direction, because we want to make sure that the two fabric number 2s match, and the fabric 4 and the fabric 8, that they match as well.
I don't see any questions, here.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Next week was going to be our most difficult block, but don't be afraid. We have made it super easy with using the Studio 180 tools. Next week we need the split rec ruler. It is the one ruler that I think you absolutely have to have.
Well, and the Lemoyne was.
And the Lemoyne, yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have the split rec, if you cannot get it, we could paper piece this block, but that would be the only other way that we would be able to do it. So on that note, if there's anybody that does want a paper piece pattern, we can see what we can do. Maybe we can put one up on our site, on our Facebook page next week. But for now, we're just going to leave it with this. We're going to demo the split rec. I think it's a really cool, one of Deb's newer tools, and I've only used it just recently, and I really kind of like some of the things that you can do with it. So on that note, again, don't forget to like our video. Bye from me and Tiffany and Nugget, and happy sewing, everybody. Bye now.